Okay, I've been doing a test on my freezer to find out how many watts it's drawing over a certain period of time. Now, right now, I can see that this has been 3 hours into the test. I just wrote down the numbers here. I started the test. My power bank was 77% state of charge. The temperature was 56 Fahrenheit. And it's roughly, I don't know if you can see it or not, it's roughly still 55.9 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm down in my basement here, and it's only 4 degrees Celsius or something outside. So, right now, the state of charge on my power bank is 60%. It started at 77%. Right now, there's no load on the output. Obviously, the freezer is up to cool. It's up to temperature. Whether it's heat or cool, well, obviously with the freezer it's cool. So it's at its temperature for shutting off. Okay, so yes, my freezer test. Now my power bank is roughly 2,000 watt hours. I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to really check if it's 2,000 or if it's 21. I'm not sure, but I think it's at least 2,000 watt hours. Okay, freezer run time. I did it for 2 hours. It took 140 watts and it took 10% of the charge. Now that was for 2 hours. So it really only took 5% of the charge. Okay, so the easiest way I figure I can look at it, I'll take 2,000 watt hours, divide that by 10%, comes out to 200 watt hours. 200 watts per hour. And then down further here, where is it? Somewhere is that I determined that it was 100 watts per hour. Yeah, right here. I decided to just make it easier and say instead of 200 watts in 2 hours, I'll just make it easier again, 100 watts per hour. So, right, 10% took 200 watts in 2 hours. Actually, that should say 2 hours. I know what's going on here. Okay, so the freezer load was 140 watts. The power bank load was 200 watts. So I subtracted 200 watts from the 140, and I realized my power bank used 60 watts in 2 hours. Test run was 2 hours, so it was 30 watts per hour. So that's not really that bad, considering that it was running the inverter. And if your inverter is only taking 30 watts per hour, I'd say that's pretty darn good. Okay, keep going. So 200 watt hours minus 200 watts per hour. See, this is where I figured, okay, 200 watts, 2 hours. So it's roughly, if you look at it, that was 10%. There's 100% in the power bank. So I took the 10% and times it by, well, if you take 100% divided by 10, the 10 that it took, you're left with 10. So 10 times 2 hours, because there was 2 hours of the test, came to 20 hours. I hope I'm explaining this easy enough for people to understand. I can understand it. So I figure that the power bank, like I said, I made it easier down here. It's 100 watts. So if you divide 100 watts into 2,000 watts, you're obviously going to get 20 hours. I was doing it a different way, and then I came up with the 100 watts. So obviously it'll be good for around 20 hours. I'm not sure if I would want to run my power bank down to zero. Actually, I wouldn't run it down to zero. So it may get 18 hours. I'd definitely be shutting it off at 10% with 10% left charge, state of charge. Okay, so then 2 batteries. I have 4, but I'm just saying 2 batteries. I could charge the power bank at 500 watts per hour. So in other words, I could add another 26 hours to my runtime. I don't know if I explained it here. I have 100 amp hour batteries. Each one of those, I said 1,300 watt hours, but it obviously changes because your batteries are going to start off at say 13.5 or 13.4, and they're 100 amp hours. But while they're discharging, they're 13.1, 13.2. So what I did was I just did in my head, but it doesn't matter. I times 13 volts by 100 and gave me 1,300 watt hours. And then where I have 2 that I'll put in series to get 24 volts in order to get the 500 watts, I'll have 2 in series. So obviously that's going to give me 2,600 watts. Even though they're in series and I'm doubling the voltage, it doesn't matter. The capacity will be 2,600 watts because that's the capacity of my batteries. When you look at 1,300 watt hours, that's the capacity of my batteries. If I use 2 of them, I'm going to have twice the capacity. So if you look at it at 2,600 watt hours and it's using 100 watt hours, then I should be able to extend it 26 hours. So long story short, I should be able to get another day. Well, 24 hours in a day, 26 hours. Between the power bank and 2 batteries, I should be able to get 2 days of runtime on my freezer. And I have 2 more batteries, so that would give me roughly another day. But that's actually concerning because I want to also power my fridge. So I'm going to have to take a reading on my fridge and find out how many watts per hour that takes. And I figure that is probably going to take my other 2 batteries. Cheers.